A-ration. These meals consisted of fresh, refrigerated, or frozen foods prepared by military cooks in established field kitchens. Having been the standard garrison diet long before the war, logisticians adapted them for overseas base camps where secure supply lines and cooling facilities existed. Unlike packaged alternatives, these provisions included fresh meat, vegetables, and dairy, making them the closest thing a soldier could get to a traditional home-cooked meal. Providing this level of familiar, high-quality food was vital for maintaining troop morale during extended deployments, even though the constant need for refrigeration meant they rarely reached active combat zones. B-ration. Military cooks prepared these bulk meals using canned, dehydrated, and preserved ingredients rather than fresh produce. They were developed specifically to feed large groups of troops in forward areas where refrigeration was impossible, but field kitchens could still be safely established. What set them apart from garrison food was their entirely shelf-stable nature, relying heavily on items like powdered eggs, canned meats, and dehydrated vegetables. They served a crucial role in sustaining entire units in combat zones, offering hot, cooked meals that kept soldiers fed without the complex logistical requirements of fresh food delivery. C-ration. This was an individual, pre-cooked canned meal designed specifically for soldiers engaged in active combat. The United States military introduced them in the late 1930s to replace older, heavier reserve provisions from the previous World War. Issued in sets of 6 small cans per day, and they contained a mix of meat hashes, stews, and a bread component consisting of hard biscuits, soluble coffee, and sugar. They were critically important since they allowed a frontline soldier to carry multiple days of balanced, ready-to-eat sustenance in their pack, requiring no special preparation or cooking equipment under enemy fire. K-ration. Designed initially for paratroopers and airborne forces, these were extremely lightweight, individually packaged combat meals. Physiologist Ansel Keys developed them at the request of the War Department to provide a high-calorie diet that could fit effortlessly into a uniform pocket. They stood out due to their distinct wax-dipped cardboard packaging, which protected the contents from moisture while holding items like canned meat, crackers, and a small chocolate bar. Providing short-term nourishment for highly mobile assault troops, these kits ensured that specialized units had reliable energy during rapid operations, where even carrying traditional canned goods was too cumbersome. D-ration. Quartermasters issued these purely as an emergency survival food, rather than a standard daily meal. The Hershey Chocolate Company developed the formula in 1937 under strict military guidelines to create a concentrated high-energy bar that would not melt at high temperatures. Unlike typical candy, it was formulated with oat flour to be deliberately dense and slightly bitter, preventing soldiers from snacking on it casually before a genuine crisis arose. Carrying a compact block of calories proved essential for survival, seen offering a final nutritional safety net for troops cut off from regular supply lines or trapped behind enemy lines. 10-in-1 ration. The military designed this group meal kit to supply either 10 men for 1 day or 1 man for 10 days. Developed midway through the war, planners created it to bridge the logistical gap between individual combat meals and massive field kitchens. It was distinct for its large consolidated packaging that held a variety of canned meals, biscuits, cereals, and essential accessories like can openers and toilet paper. This system greatly streamlined supply lines for motorized infantry units and small patrols, giving isolated squads a more varied and manageable food source without needing a dedicated cook. 5-in-1 ration. This was a specialized group meal system designed to feed 5 soldiers for a single day. The military developed it early in the war specifically for mechanized units, such as tank crews or half-track squads, who operated independently but had room to store slightly bulkier items. While it contained similar canned meats, vegetables, and evaporated milk as other group meals, it stood out by catering specifically to the size of a standard vehicle crew. It proved highly effective during early campaigns, though quartermasters eventually phased it out in favor of the more versatile 10-man version to simplify global supply chains. Mountain ration. The War Department designed this specialized meal specifically for troops operating in high-altitude, cold-weather environments. That developed alongside the creation of specialized alpine units It was formulated to provide a significantly higher caloric intake to help soldiers combat the extreme cold. It differed from standard combat meals by including a larger quantity of dehydrated foods and soups, which were lightweight for climbing, but required melted snow to prepare. Supplying these units with dense, warming foods was essential for maintaining physical endurance in harsh, unforgiving terrains where regular supplies could not easily reach them. Jungle ration. This was a highly specialized combat meal tailored for the extreme heat and humidity of the Pacific Theater. Logisticians created it early in the war when it became apparent that standard provisions were quickly spoiling in tropical conditions. It was unique because it completely eliminated heavy canned goods, relying entirely on dehydrated components, pre-cooked rice, and dried fruits that resisted rot and were light enough to carry through dense foliage. Although it was eventually replaced by standard combat meals to streamline production, it served a critical early role in keeping soldiers nourished and mobile in harsh, unforgiving rainforests. Assault ration. Military planners created this extremely compact meal strictly for the initial chaotic hours of an amphibious invasion. It was formulated in the Pacific Theater to sustain Marines and infantrymen during the critical window between hitting the beach and the arrival of regular supply boats. Unlike full daily meals, it consisted primarily of sugar-heavy items like hard candies, chocolate bars, and chewing gum. This alongside cigarettes and matches, packaged in a small waterproof bag. It was never intended for long-term nutrition, but rather to provide a rapid, accessible burst of energy for troops enduring the intense physical and mental strain of a beachhead assault. Bailout ration. The Army Air Forces issued this compact survival kit to bomber and fighter crews flying missions over hostile or remote territory. It was developed to give downed airmen a fighting chance at survival while evading enemy capture or awaiting rescue. Packaged in a small, flat tin designed to slide easily into a flight suit pocket, it contained concentrated bouillon cubes, hard chocolate, and fruit bars. Providing an easily concealable source of emergency calories was incredibly important, is ensuring that pilots who had to parachute out of their aircraft had immediate sustenance to help them navigate back to friendly lines. Lifeboat ration. The military and maritime services provided this specialized survival kit for sailors and airmen stranded at sea. Authorities developed it to replace older, perishable emergency supplies stored on naval vessels and life rafts. It differed significantly from land-based meals by focusing heavily on items that would not provoke thirst, containing high-carbohydrate, low-protein foods like hard biscuits, malted milk tablets, and fruit drops. This careful formulation was crucial for survival on the open ocean, providing necessary calories to shipwreck survivors without accelerating their dehydration while they waited for rescue. Aircrew lunch. The Army Air Forces created this specific meal to be eaten by bomber crews while actively flying long-distance combat missions. It was developed because high altitudes and freezing temperatures inside unpressurized aircraft made eating standard canned provisions completely impractical. It stood out by featuring bite-sized, easily chewable items like fudge, gumdrops, and peanuts that could be eaten quickly with one hand, even while wearing heavy flight gloves. Giving aviators a quick source of carbohydrates was highly important, helping them stave off fatigue and maintain their focus during grueling, multi-hour flights deep into enemy territory. Hospital supplement ration. This was a specialized medical provision designed strictly for wounded and sick soldiers recovering in field facilities. The Quartermaster Corps developed it in close coordination with the medical department to support frontline aid stations and evacuation hospitals. Instead of heavy, calorie-dense combat food, it featured easily digestible comfort items like canned soups, fruit juices, evaporated milk, and soluble coffee. Delivering gentle, familiar nutrition was incredibly important for stabilizing casualties, as these carefully selected items helped hydrate and nourish patients whose bodies could not yet tolerate standard military meals.